This is Gemara Metziah Daf Mem Gimel. Let me pick it up on the top of Mem Gimel and Aleph as we begin the final Mishnah. I shouldn't say the final Mishnah, the final blot. Tomorrow, B'siyat Dishmaya will be wrapping up this incredible third parak. Says the Mishnah, Mafgin Ma'is Itzel Shulchani. If someone deposits money with a Shulchani is a money changer. So, if you bundle up the money, the money changer is not allowed to use them. Lefikal, therefore, of them if they're lost. On ideas that we already touched upon, that in scenarios in which the shomer is not allowed to use the item. Why is he not allowed to use the item? Because they're in the mannerism in which they're not to be touched. They're wrapped up, so they just stay like they are. Then the shomer is not chayiv if it's lost because he had no right to use them. Mutarim, if they are untied, yishtamish when we can use them. If they're lost, chayiv achar yusan, he's obligated. That's case A of Eitzel Shulchani. Eitzel Balabayis. If someone deposits money by a Balabayis, and now, of course, the halacha changes. Says the Mishnah, whether it was tied up or not. Bein sur and bein mutarin lo yishtamish when the Balabayis not let use it lefikach therefore mavdu ein no chayiv achar yusan. Balabayis is not chayiv. And the Mishnah concludes that what about a chenveni? A chenveni has a din of a balabayis, divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer chenveni kishulchani. So really, one din, which is how do we deal with the money that's deposited by a shomer for safekeeping. The first we have by a shulchani. Depends if it's tied up or not, if he can use it. If it's untied, you assume the shulchani is getting rights to use the item. If it's by a balabayis, regardless, it cannot be used. And if it's by the chenvani, says the Mishnah, then we have a machlokes whether by the chenvani whether it has a din of a shulchani or whether it has a din of a bal habayis. Says the Heilige Gemara, Mishom ditzroirin lo mishtamish behem. The first part of the Mishnah taught us that a shulchani cannot use it if it's tied up. Is that true? Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav Yehuda, B'tzroiram v'chasumim shanu. We're dealing with a case that it was tied up and chasumim. It was sealed, and therefore that is the reason it cannot be used. Ramari Amar Bekesher Mishuna. It's an interesting knot. Meaning, what we're saying is, it's not stam that it's tied up. It's tied up in a peculiar manner. And it's a shayla. Rashi, 2 lines to the top, just speaking out the Hava Mina. Rashi says, Maikili Das Yishkan. Where does it show for the fact that the money is tied up that you don't want the money changer to use the money? You're giving it to a money changer. Isn't it normal to give it, whether it's tied or not, so you should be able to use it? On that, and then we have the truths of the Gemara, whether it's true v'chasumim or whether it is with a kesher mishuna. We continue quoting the next part of the Mishnah, which was what? Mutarin. If it's given to a money changer untied, the halacha is yishtamish bahen, he is allowed to use the money. Omar Ravuna teaches Ravuna v'afilu nensu. The din in the Mishnah that the money changer is chayiv, says Ravuna, it's even if it was an oines, it was an unavoidable mishap, but because he has rights to use the item, therefore the halacha is he's chayiv in all scenarios. Asks the Gemara for the terminology of the Mishnah. Why? What did the Mishnah say? 13 lines down, the first line is Nensu. V'avdu katani. The Mishnah said the item was lost. It didn't say that it was an Aines. Explains the Gemara. Kedir Rabba. Like the opinion of Rabba, Damar Rabba, Rabba taught Nignavu Balistin Mizuyen, Avdu Shatavas Vinasa Bayam. So even though you're right, the Mishnah says Avdu, but it means lost in the mannerism of an Oinis. Teretz number 1 of the Mishnah. So this is the Shita of Rav Huna, The Rav Huna is teaching us that in the scenario that it was untied, the halacha is that you are chayiv for oinsim. Comes along Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman Omar teaches Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman Omar teaches Rav Nachman that in the case of Nensu, in the case of an Oines, lie, you're not chayiv. You're only chayiv for Avdu. Omar le Rava le Rav Nachman, says Rava to Rav Nachman, L'dachtar min Nensu lie, Alma lavi shayla layu. So we see you're not considered a shayel. But says the Gemara, 1 second, Yishayel lo yave, Shomer Zachanami lo yave. And therefore the question is, then why is he chayiv if it's getting lost? Amar le responds, Rav Nachman, Madina lacha, this I'm asking, I admit to you. Tahayel v'nene mehene, that since he gets hanam, therefore he has to provide a level of hana to the owner, meaning, let's say a good deal came by with him and he needed some extra cash. He would be able to buy it with that money. Therefore, says Rav Nachman, so even though Rav Nachman is of the opinion that you're not chayav for einsin, but says Rav Nachman, he's indeed a shomer sacher. Why? Because he's potentially able to utilize the money in a situation. Continues the Gemara, Isi Rav Nachman Rav Huna. So Rav Nachman asks Rav Huna, you Rav Huna learned that you're chayiv for einsim. Ask Rav Nachman from the following Mishnah. Hamavgin ma'is ezel shulchanim surah leishtamish ben lefik lemaitzi leima'al hagizbar v'mutarim. But what if it's untied? Yishtamish ben vikuz lefik lemaitzi, if they're utilized. Ma'al hagizbar, the gizbar is over me'ilah for utilizing holy items for mundane purposes. Says the Gemara, but if according to you, Rav Huna, you're chayiv for even oinsin, so what's the reason why the Mishnah says that he spent the money? Even if he didn't spend the money, the fact you're chayiv for oinsim should as well consider at this level of me'ilah. Omar le, you're right. But it is indeed the same din. And we move over to the next Mishnah, which again is similar halachas of the Shomer, utilizing the item. Says the Mishnah, Ashaleach yad b'pikadon. Someone has a pikadon, someone gives someone an item, a deposit, a safekeep. Says the Mishnah, you use that item. Says Beishamai, because you use the item, you the shomer suffers, whether it's a loss or an increase. No. Kishas, you have to pay the value that it's worth when you use it. Rav Kiva Imer Kishas Atviyah. Says the Gemara, what exactly is going on over here? Omar Rabba, let's begin with the din of Rabba. Hi man, the gozel chavita the chamra mechavre, someone who stole a barrel of wine from his friend, meikara shavya zuza, hashtia shava arba. Originally the barrel of wine was worth 1 zuz, and now it was destroyed in the hands of the ganuf, and now it's worth 4 zuz. So what does the ganuf have to pay? Says the Brisa, Tavrei Shasya, if the ganuf himself broke it or drank the wine, then he pays the higher value right now. Mishal marba, itvar mimil, if it broke on his own, mishalim zuzah. So my time, what is the reason when he destroys the item, he has to pay the value that it's worth when he destroyed it? You'll be able to turn it in its current state. So therefore, who shaita, that moment that you ruined it, you drank it or you broke the barrel, it's considered that at that moment you stole it. To Tanan, if you learn to the Mishnah, 10 lines to the bottom of the first line, it's Tanan. Continues Rabban explaining the Brisa, Itvar Memela, if it broke on its own, Misham Zuzah, my time. Hashta loy avin love loy midi, not do anything. I might come a chayvislay. Why would you be chayiv? Yishaita the gazla yishaita zuzu de shavya. When you stole it, it was worth a zuz, and therefore that's what you pay. So Rabbah explains this case of the Mishnah. I should say better, the case of Gizela, similar to the case of the Mishnah. Someone who's stealing a barrel of wine from his friend, he has to pay the current higher value. Says the Gemara, Tinan. 5 lines from the bottom dives the Gemara into the depth behind our Mishnah. Veisila Laimrim Gishasaitza. Said Veisila in a Mishnah, the Shomer pays the value of the item at the time it was utilized, time it was removed from its Mishas. Man Gishasaitza, says the Gemara, Ilim Gishasaitza min Oilam. Ubemai. Is there such a man that says you could pay less? So what is this case? Says the Gemara as we turn over to Megillah Beis. What's going on over here is what? You have to pay the value that it was worth when you took it out of the possession of the Bailim. Says the Gemara, Lema, so it should come out on the second line of Mem Gilum Beis. Says the Gemara, Lema, Rabba, Tamar Kibei Shammai. Says the Gemara, Rabba holds like Beis Shammai. Why don't we say that Rabba holds like Beis Shammai? Is that what comes out? So of course, we never wanted to be forced to say that our explanation is only working with the opinion of Beis Shammai. So rather, says the Gemara, 2 lines down, Mem Gimel Beis, Amar Lacha, Rabba, as follows. Beyeser, when the item increases in value, Komel Pligi, Ki Pligi Bechaser, Beis Shammai Sav Sheikhas Yad and Chisaroin. Going back to Machlekes that we had prior. Beis Shammai holds that Sheikhas Yad, when you use an item in Sheikhas does not depend upon the item being ruined and lost. And therefore, when the Shomer takes the item, even before there is a loss, it's considered that it's in his possession. Therefore, when it went down in value, it went down in value in his own rishos. Whereas Beisel Savri Sheikhas Yad Sheikhasar, and therefore Chasar B'Shusa Demari Chasar, because he didn't yet make a kinyan. Says the Gemara, 1 second, Al-Hadam Arava. So Rav is going with Beis Shammai, which we don't want to say. Says the Gemara, you're right, 12 lines down. What's the case over here? Kigoin. For example, Shatilta, the item was used, Havi Aleha Geizlais, to be able to reach the chickens. Ubishal Shalai Midas Kamifli. This hopefully sound familiar that the case they're referring to is not a proper gazlan, meaning not one that wants to steal b'kavana. So it takes the item without das. Beis Shammai Savri Shlosh Midas. Gazlan Avi is a gazlan chaser b'shusei didei chaser, and therefore it's considered that you stole the item, and therefore when does it go down in value? It goes down in value in your possession because you're considered that you stole it. Whereas Beis Hillel Savri says Beis Hillel Shlosh Midas. But asks the Gemara, that which Rava said, Shoyel Shaloi Midas L'Rabbanon Gazlan Have. According to the Rabbanon, that Shoyel Shaloi Midas is a Gazlan. Comes out what? Lema Rava Damer Kebei Shammai. So we keep on having the same issue. The issue being that subsequent brises seem to keep on falling into the opinion of Beis Shammai, which we do not want. Elahacha, says the Gemara about 20 lines down. First word of line is Rava suggests the Gemara we're talking about Bishvach shel Gzeila kamifligi. Beis Shammai Savri Shvach Gzeila didn't exilave. The increase in the item goes to the nigzal, the one that the item was stolen from the owner. And this is an older machlokes Titania. If someone steals a sheep, causes a shears of a yolden, gives birth, to pay it back, Divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Gezela Chazeres Be'enei. Tekanami, Tekatana Bisham Yami like Chasav Yesu, Zomer Shasa, Shema Mino. So it ends up that the machlekes is v'shevach shel gezela, and it patterns a previous machlekes how you return the gezela. Continue with the two dots. Smack in the middle of the Amid of Mem Gimel and Beis. Rabbi Akiva Oimer Kishas HaTviyah. Says Rabbi Akiva in the Mishnah, third din, the Shomer has to pay the value at the time of the Tviyah, at the time of a Bezdin. Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Shmuel, Lachik Rav Akiva. Umad Rav Akiva, B'makayim, Sheyesh Eidim, when there are Eidim. My time, why is Rav Akiva? Moed Damar Kol, Asher Hu Lo Yitzanenu B'yom HaShmasai. V'kivan De'ika Eidim, my Ushaita for that moment, to Dechayev Le Ashma. Since there's Eidim, it's considered that for that moment, you are Chayev. Omer Le Rav Aishia, Le Rav Yehuda, Rabbi Ata Omer Kain. The opposite, like in Ikadi Amri. The Rav Kiva argues even when there's Eidim, on the day of the guilt, it's the one that's Machayev him for the guilt, and therefore, whether in this lashon there are witnesses or not, Rav Kiva holds you always pay at the shas, at the value the item is worth when they're sitting in court. Omar alei Rav Zera li Rav Abba bar Papa. Asks Rav Zera to Rav Abba bar Papa. Ki azas lahasam, when you go to Eretz Yisrael, akiv sulma desur, ascend the ladder, make a detour up Mount Tzur, sulmas desur, va'ol ligabei Rav Yaakov Idi, and go visit Rav Yaakov Idi, u'bay minei, and ask him. Ishmil Rav Yechon Rav Kiva, ein alachik Rav Akiva. Ask him, what's the halacha? Do we pass like Rav Kiva or not? Amar le'achem Rav Yechon Rav Kiva lo olam. Not only do we pass like Rav Kiva, we do lo olam. My lo olam says Gemara Ravashi shlo time or honey meaning. Don't say this is only echad like a edim. Havel echad ika edim loy. V'inami da'adul dochta v'yitzvara lafukim de Rav Yishmael. Tamar levina das ba'elim kamash lan devina das ba'elim Rava Amar halacha kebeis Hillel. Says Rava, no, that we pass like Beis Hillel, and therefore you pay with the value what it was worth when you left, when you took it out of the owner's property. We begin the next Mishnah, we'll pick it up from the Gemara in the next year. If someone has a kavana, he wants to misuse the item, and he says such, as Rashi speaks out, Amar b'fnei Eidim. He says in front of Eidim, Etel pekdani shableni la'atzmi, I'm going to take the item for myself. Says Beis Hillel, good intentions, bad intentions. You said you're going to use it. Lamaisa says Beis Hillel, until you shalech layad, you're not chayiv. Shenemar lo shachleb dechzreyu. Hatas achavis, if you tilted the barrel of an atli men revias, and you took out a revias, so why minishman and broken and shalom revias? Hagbio! But if you picked it up and atli men revias, then minishman shalom de meikula, as we'll see, because it's a kidney that is affected, and then you have to pay for the whole thing and the eventuality of its breaking. Pick it up from the top of Mendalit, as we'll finish the parak tomorrow. B'siyata dishmaya.